We are just weeks away from school starting. The pandemic continues and lawmakers want a special session. What's going to happen? And what's Denver superintendent saying today? We go back 100 years when riots tore through the city. That happened during a pandemic too. With nothing to do since a lot of things are closed, parks have been our escape in Denver. We've got loads of park news today. Find your bench and park yourself here because we are next. So it's the middle of summer break for state lawmakers, but they're still getting their jabs in at each other. Republicans want to get called back to work and pass a bill to put money in the pockets of parents at the expense of schools. Politics guy Marshall Zellinger is here, and the idea, Marshall, that they're floating around here is that they want to take money that would go to a school district and instead give it to parents with kids learning at home.
Jeremy, it's an idea called Safe Learning Choices. Most Republican lawmakers signed on to a letter to the governor today asking for him to call a special session to address challenges parents face with the upcoming school year. Well, the one idea that the Republicans want was written in bold. It says, one proposal we will introduce is a direct education support package for families called Safe Learning Choices. Families would be entitled to all or a portion of their child's per pupil revenue. Well, that's the money school districts get for each student enrolled. According to the Republicans, the money would allow parents to remain at home, engage an educator, purchase materials, and if necessary, computers and broadband. I talked to Republican Senator Paul Lundeen, a former member of the State Board of Education, about the idea that sounds somewhat familiar. The one idea sounds a lot like school vouchers, except in the parent's pocket.
The reality is we're in a crisis situation. We're in an emergency situation. Think about all the other aspects of society where we're doing things dramatically different than we've done it before. This simply says, hey, with regard to public education, we should be looking at an array of options that go beyond the normal box that we live and work inside.
The first we heard of it was a letter. Any serious effort would involve negotiations and a thoughtful approach to figuring out a way to improve our schools. And I don't think a proposal that would reduce options and force the closure of some schools and online programs would in any way help in this situation.
Put this dead on arrival idea aside. School districts rely on students being in attendance on pupil enrollment count day to make sure the district gets funding they're supposed to for each student. Well, it turns out pupil enrollment count day isn't really just one day, and it may not require students to be in a building to be counted. How does your school district get funding to provide school for your kids and pay for your teachers? This complicated formula that we've shown from time to time on Next. This year, districts on average are receiving $8,000 per student. Pupil enrollment count day is October 1st. That is the day districts need you in school to make sure they get the most funding for every enrolled student. But it's really not just one day. Students need to be in attendance one day prior to October 1st and at least one more day between October 2nd and October 31st to count for funding purposes. For schools that traditionally have in-person learning, that requires a butt in a seat. So what now with remote learning? Do lawmakers need to come back for a special session just to address how students can be counted?
No, there's no change to state laws required for this.
Jennifer Oakes is the Chief Operating Officer for the State Department of Education, which is providing guidance to school districts to adopt new rules for this new learning environment. Failure to have adopted local policy may impact a district's funding if remote learning is used in any capacity.
We've asked the local boards to define their educational process for the upcoming year, to outline what their type of remote learning may include for that year and what types of attendance would be appropriate for their district. For example, in-person attendance or attendance at a classroom like this type of a Zoom environment, or maybe it could be logging into the district's online platform.
I'm always skeptical, so I asked the Department of Education about possible taking advantage of remote learning to get more students counted than you really have. Or, Jeremy, you probably understand this language. Let's say you start class at 8 a.m., they take attendance at 8 a.m., and at 8:10 you ditch the remote learning and go play video games the rest of the day. The state is not worried about fraud like that. There are audit processes, but I am just curious, if you go play video games, you've still been counted as being in class, at least perhaps for
That's
a day.
right, kids. Stay off the Fortnite, stay in front of the laptop, make sure you get your learning in. Really complicated, and it's clear that districts are going to have to adapt pretty quickly with whatever happens. Good job, Marshall. Thank you. In 3 weeks and 6 days, Denver Public Schools plans to start its school year. It will begin with remote learning for at least the first 2 weeks, and then the district will kind of reevaluate things to see if it wants to stick with that or actually bring kids back into physical schools, or it might do both. At the moment, it seems like they're leaning towards the hybrid approach.
If we're at a stage where we really feel like it's in the best safety interest of everyone, we'll be able to open up our classrooms for hybrid learning.
DPS is a district of 93,000 students. It's expecting a $65 million shortfall in its budget this coming year. So let's do some comparisons here. Major League Baseball makes more than $10 billion a year in revenue. Just 3 games into this short season, and the league is already dealing with an outbreak. That could stop the games. So what makes DPS so confident it can handle a similar outbreak?
I think it's really important for us to pay attention to all of that. And, the best laid plans, we understand, can, go the wrong direction. That's part of the reason why we're really committed to a slow, gradual start, so that we can learn the health and safety checks. Everybody get used to the new normal.
Yeah, the new normal. Superintendent Susanna Cordova says she understands a return to in-person learning is quite complicated and that everyone in the district is working on what that could look like. Another week, another record amount of tests processed in Colorado for COVID-19. Processed more than 17,000 tests on Monday, the state did. First time we've actually eclipsed that mark. After a few days of a downward trend, hospitalizations for COVID-19 have sort of plateaued in recent days. 251 people are currently in a Colorado hospital with COVID-19. It's been hovering between 245 and 250 since Friday. 30 patients have been discharged or transferred in the last 24 hours. While the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment works to control the pandemic in our state, they also now could be finding themselves in the middle of another big story dominating the headlines in our state this summer. The department confirmed with 9 News today they're in the middle of an investigation into the use of ketamine in August of 2019. That is the same month and year when Elijah McClain died. A paramedic injected ketamine into his body when he was arrested last year. Aurora police stopped him after someone called in a suspicious person. During attempts to restrain him, officers put McClain in a neck hold. McClain then died a few days later. CDPHE says since the end of June, it began receiving numerous complaints about an administration of ketamine in August of 2019. The agency affirms it is investigating. So time now for a look back at time. Let's do a little random Colorado history. Boy, it's been a while. I missed this segment. Next week will be the 100-year anniversary of Denver's most deadliest riots. In August of 1920, thousands of people took to the streets during the tramway strikes. And as we look back, there are some parallels from today to that time, including a pandemic. 100 years ago, the people who lived and died before our time were experiencing a global pandemic that killed millions. In Colorado, the Spanish flu killed 7,000 people, leading to fear, frustration, and anger.
And so we were reeling from that. We were really suffering from a number of things. By 1920, we'd been through World War I. We'd had extreme inflation.
Longtime history professor Dr. Stephen Leonard tells us that frustration may have impacted the tramway strike riots. About a year after the flu began to subside, tramway workers stopped operating the cars in an effort to get more pay. Their massive strike brought Denver to a halt beginning on August 1st, 1920.
And literally tens of thousands of people were dependent on the tramway, mainly to get downtown, to get to places of business, to go shopping.
As the strike continued, strikebreakers arrived in Denver to replace the workers. Rioters took to the streets. Mesh was placed over the trams to protect passengers. People with fire targeted cars that were burned and overturned.
Rioters, tore through downtown. Many of them hated the Denver Post because of the policies of its publisher. So they attacked the Post and they tried to set fire to the Post building.
Bullets flew in the city. Ads appeared in the paper for riot insurance. Eventually, more than 700 troops came into Denver to quell the violence as newspapers documented 7 deaths.
So in terms of deaths, this was certainly the worst in Denver's history.
A time of turmoil and anger, a time when extreme thinking began to take root in the city. A city that has quite a history with those men in white who eventually became politically powerful.
And the Ku Klux Klan positioned itself in that period as a group very much in favor of law and order. So they were able to take advantage of that unsettled period to work their own evil ends.
And special thanks to the Denver Public Library and the Western History Collection for those photos so we could share this story with you. It's estimated up to 10,000 people participated in those riots and protests way back then. If you've driven by the Capitol, you've noticed a lot of activity at Veterans Park. It's been the site of recent protests, and people experiencing homelessness have been camping there. Today, the city sent crews to clean up trash in the park, but they did not remove the camp. Governor Jared Polis says he's been calling on the city to do that for weeks. The mayor's office told us it's not a simple task, especially during a pandemic. Another park, long known as La Raza Park, is becoming officially closer to becoming La Raza Park. The park in Denver's north side is currently Columbus Park. Over this weekend, organizers collected well more than the required 300 signatures to get the name change process started. Councilwoman Amanda Sandoval says they have about 700. Organizers also played it safe with COVID-19 too over this weekend. Instead of using pens or reusing pens, they just gave away hundreds of pens. This is an effort that has been going on since the 1970s, as Chicano rights activists and people who have been using the park have been calling it La Raza Park for years. And there's a fun fact here. When you actually plug in La Raza Park into Google, you'll actually get taken there by Google Maps. And speaking of parks, they're pretty much essential for our sanity during the current pandemic.
Park and Rec employees, a lot of times you don't see them, you don't hear them, you don't know what they're doing.
Which means there are quite a few unsung heroes you should know about who are making sure things are in order. Hey, the internet is actually being used for good. How some socially distant bird watchers helped save a young osprey. Next.
Sunshine and 86 degrees in Denver today. This afternoon and evening, showers moving through, cooling numbers off just a bit. We will see temperatures in the 90s for the next couple of days. Thankfully, the storms moving through are non-severe. Just a brief heavy downpour, a little bit of thunder and lightning. Most of the activity is well east of the metro area, but there's still a chance we may see a shower yet tonight. Tomorrow, the atmosphere kind of dries up, only a 20% chance of storms late in the day, and with abundant sunshine, well, that means a warmer day. Tonight, showers early, then clearing, our low 60. Tomorrow, sunshine and 92 degrees. Slight chance of a late day storm, perhaps a better chance of rain from storms, and a nice cooling trend for Thursday and Friday. Heading into Saturday and Sunday, the weekend temperatures are back to the low and mid 90s.
You all know we love a good bird nest story. Some dedicated internet viewers of the Emma, Colorado osprey cam helped save a young osprey last week. They saw that the bird had a fishing hook and some fishing line wrapped around it. This is an amazing story. They told Colorado Parks and Wildlife, who sent Wildlife Officer Kurt Tesh to the nest on July 17th. Holy Cross Energy gave him a lift up to the nest. One of the chicks had a fishing hook stuck in its beak. The wildlife officer worked to free the hook from its bird mouth while also keeping an eye on mom and dad.
When we got up there, one of the parents was actually bringing a fish back and came right up to flew right over our head when we were standing there. And then the other parent came around, they're kind of buzzing our heads, not really sure what we were doing there, kind of getting annoyed at us.
There's a learning moment here. Tesh says what likely happened is one of the parents brought a fish to the nest that had a hook in its mouth and then fed it to the chick. He says this is a good reminder to retrieve any loose tackle or line when you're out fishing. They're never really seen or thought of by the public very often, but they're the reason you have a nice park to escape to.
They are doing jobs that they did not sign up for.
It's Parks and Recreation Professionals Day in Colorado, so we say thanks for doing what you do. Next. And welcome back. Governor Jared Polis recently named July 2020 Parks and Recreation Month. And there's also another proclamation. July 28th, 2020, which is today, is Parks and Recreation Professionals Day. Keeping parks clean and neat comes with a set of challenges and budget cuts as a result of COVID-19.
Denver is blessed. We actually have 6,000 acres of parks in our city, which are some of the most beautiful parks in the country. We are in Washington Park right now. It's probably one of the busiest parks in this state. And the reason it's so beautiful is because of our amazing park workers. Park workers every day are out early in the morning before you even wake up, cleaning these parks, mowing the grass, fixing the irrigation.
Irrigation repairs. I go around and put all the pipes back together.
As a city, you know, it's been determined because of sales tax, we're going to be about $250 million short in our budget. That's impacting all departments across the city, including Parks and Rec. We are down about half our seasonal workers. So even though our parks still look beautiful, it's because the workers are working so much harder.
So we're trying to keep the most invasive weeds out of it.
Yeah, it's been really challenging because, you know, people want everything to get back to normal. I wouldn't be standing here with a face mask on if it was normal. We need to be super, super careful to make sure that we're not making other people sick. Please understand that those employers are out there working incredibly hard to make these parks beautiful for you. So make sure you let them know you appreciate them.
Talk about yard work. Thank you, guys. The most Colorado thing we saw today was a chance to get out and stretch the hooves. That and your feedback next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a pair of goats taking advantage of Colorado's great outdoors. Matthew sent us this photo of some goats taking a Sunday morning stroll on the Highland Canal Trail with their owner. This was in Greenwood Village. The owner was letting people pet the goats as they walked by. Good goats. His dog seemed a little bummed out, though, that the goats were getting like all that attention there. Some feedback tonight. We got some good feedback. This is from Joe. Great job, Jeremy Hohola. We'd love to see you doing Hey Next a lot more. P.S. Loved the glasses. Thank you very much, Joe. Sophie G. I love learning more about Colorado history. Your history segment. I love telling you about history. And now I'm history. See you next time. Thanks for watching.